It's 2021 and there's tons of great new medieval games coming. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanx, the medieval games you need to play in 2021. Starting off at number 20, it's the Gothic 1 remake. Way back in 2001, there was a game called Gothic, came out for Microsoft Windows. It is just a great game. It is easily a forerunner to so many action RPGs of today. If you play Gothic, you will see so many of the conventions that we have now. And that's why it's so great it's getting a remake. It is a really dated looking game, and the remake is being handled with a very clear amount of love. I am extremely excited to play the new remake. You can download the playable teaser right now on Steam, and it really looks great. It is so faithful in terms of level design to the original, but it looks so much better. We don't know exactly when it's landing, but it is definitely landing this year. I couldn't be happier. Play Gothic. It is great. At number 19 is Odin Valhalla Rising, a mobile MMORPG that just looks way too good to be a mobile MMORPG. Now, I don't personally expect it to be astoundingly different from every other mobile MMORPG out there. However, from a graphical perspective, this is probably going to be the easiest one to look at, continue to pay attention to, and generally have something to do with. I'm excited for it just based on those ideas, but if they build upon what we expect from MMORPGs on mobile platforms, which is very possible. I mean, we've seen some pretty cool stuff in this trailer. It may end up being something much bigger and more worthwhile. It is also coming to PC, so I have some hope that it's not going to be just an auto-pathing thing. We don't have an exact date, but it's landing sometime this year. At number 18 is Hellish Quart, a physics-based sword dueling game, which is in early access right now. Now, this game is extremely cool. If you recall Bushido Blade, the old PlayStation fighting game, which had different fighting stances with your swords and everything like that, this plays along those lines. It is not a Japanese-oriented aesthetic. Instead, it goes for medieval Europe. It's still the same idea, and if you liked Bushido Blade, you need to play this one. There's just almost no fighting games like this, and it nails the feel. I love it. The early access version is out now. You can play it right now. The full version is coming sometime later in the year. At number 17 is Century Age of Ashes. This is one I am currently rubbing my palms together for. This is a multiplayer dragon fighting game. We're talking airborne dragon dogfights. Dragon fights? Let's just call them dragon fights. Now, the reason I think this is so cool is the trailer really accurately gives us an idea of what we're supposed to expect with this game. Between the shooting of fire and the really tense, quick cornering, flying, speed, it looks like a really unique experience between fire physics and other aspects of it. I really think this is going to be a big game, and it's going into early access this month. I'm super excited to play this one. At number 16 is the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake, and I am going to say that there are a couple of choices with the new graphics that I'm not 100% sure about, but I am very excited at the prospect of modernizing the controls for this game. And it seems like they're staying extremely faithful to the original level design, and that's kind of more important to me than exactly how great this looks. It's not like the original game was like gorgeous or anything either, so I'm not sure that I really care a whole lot. I'm kind of more excited that they're actually moving forward with something with this series. I love Prince of Persia, and I'm personally quite excited about the prospect of having a version of this game to play that has some quality of life improvements over the old version. We don't have an exact release date for it, but it is coming soon. And come on, it's the Prince of Persia Sands of Time. Of course we're going to play it. At number 15 is Manor Lords, a medieval strategy game that combines a city builder with a tactical strategy battler. In terms of city building, it looks really interesting. It's gridless. They promise an organic experience, as well as large-scale battles where you'll be positioning troops in formations, dealing with fatigue, weather, etc. And all of this is made by a single person. Like, it's incredibly impressive knowing that. And it's not a game that has a release date, but they say sometime this year, at least in early access, and the game looks really interesting. At number 14 is Babylon's Fall, a Platinum game that hasn't gotten a lot of news, but it is still in development. A lot of people probably easily think Dark Souls. It does have that vibe to it, but if you're paying attention, the action looks entirely like a Platinum Games game, and I'm there for it. I am a sucker for Platinum Games. You could give me any premise. I don't care what story Platinum Games wants to tell me. I want to hear it. I want to play through it. I want to live it because they're so good at action games. It is just endless how great they are at it. Also, their stories are totally insane, and I'm there for it. Babylon's Fall is coming sometime this year. I'll play it. And number 13 is Tales of Arise, an upcoming RPG coming to us from Bandai Namco Entertainment. We've had a lot of Tales games, and they all have been progressively better. Honestly, it's a series that has continued to grow. Arise as an action RPG looks gorgeous. It's a story of two worlds, a medieval world called Dana and a technologically and magically advanced world called Reyna. This is probably going to be one of the more lenient in terms of medieval games that we're going to see. I think we're probably going to see era bending, and the obvious excuse is the type of story it's telling. It looks really interesting though. I love the Tales series. I'll definitely play it. It's landing sometime this year for Windows, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. And number 12 is Myth of Empires, a multiplayer sandbox game that will be hitting early access sometime in the near future. It's an online MMO style sandbox game where you will be fighting in a world torn by war. It looks like a pretty ambitious concept that involves building an empire, recruiting NPCs, crafting, building an army, etc. It looks pretty large scale, and it should be an interesting experience. Again, it's coming sometime this year, don't know exactly when, and it will be hitting early access first. At number 11 is Chivalry II, which is going to be hitting closed beta between April 23rd and 26th. It's an online medieval warfare game that, if you remember the original Chivalry, is going to be a hell of a time. This is going to be a mass-scale medieval battle with up to 64 players at a time. There's going to be a number of different modes: team deathmatch, free-for-all, team objectives, etc. The original came out way back in 2012. Chivalry 2 has been something that I've wanted to play for quite a while now, and it looks like we're finally getting it this year. It is landing on a massive platforms, including the newest consoles and PC, on June 8th. At number 10 is Lost Eidolons, a single-player turn-based tactical RPG that's going to be hitting on both consoles and PC, which will be story-based. We'll have a ton of really in-depth character customization and an orchestral soundtrack. It looks like something that, if you're interested in kind of a synthesis between more Western-type turn-based tactical RPGs and something that honestly does harken back to some of the more Fire Emblem-type games, I think there's something there for everybody, at least from my perception of it at this point. It's landing on early access on PC sometime this year, and it looks good. At number 9 is Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance, a third-person action RPG, the third in the Dark Alliance series, and a spiritual successor to two Baldurs Gate spin-off games, both bearing the name Dark Alliance. This game will feature characters from the novel The Legend of Drizzt, as well as a multiplayer online co-op mode for up to 4 players. Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance is hitting Windows, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X on June 22nd. At number 8 is Crimson Desert, an open-world action-adventure game developed by Pearl Abyss, originally planned as a prequel to Black Desert Online. Now that is an interesting fact on account. This is both a single-player and multiplayer game. We will be seeing online play. However, Crimson Desert's development diverted and the story became different. It's still set in the same universe, and I think Black Desert Online sets a fair amount of expectations for it. I think it's going to be really interesting to see exactly what this is and where it goes when it releases on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Windows in winter 2021. At number 7 is Project Awakening, an RPG being developed by Cygames for the PlayStation 4. Now, my belief is that this is probably not going to be a game that is released exclusively on the PlayStation 4. The producer has discussed changing over to PlayStation 5, but we've never gotten any official confirmation. Most likely that is the case, but this is the year it's supposed to release. It does look like there is a lot of Monster Hunter and Dragon's Dogma influence on the game. Again, it's supposed to release sometime this year. It has some great visuals. I think it's definitely worth looking into further, and I hope we get more info on it soon. At number 6 is King's Bounty 2, a turn-based tactical RPG that's a sequel to a game that came out in the 1990s. It was a Heroes of Might and Magic game that came out on MS-DOS, Windows, and eventually on Genesis. King's Bounty 2 is being developed by Deep Silver and looks like they're attempting to update the series as opposed to reinvent it. It's not an action RPG or anything like that. Looks like they're trying to stick to the conventions of the original, and I think it's an interesting looking title. Gonna hit Switch, Windows, PS4, Xbox One, possibly the newer consoles on August 24th. At number 5 is Hood, Outlaws, and Legends, a PvPvE multiplayer heist game in which you use stealth to steal treasures, and when you get caught, you engage in some pretty serious combat. It is a pretty unique looking game. The gameplay looks pretty well put together, and I really like the idea of a stealth game that turns into just this awful, brutal combat. Hood, Outlaws, and Legends is coming on May 10th. At number 4 is Age of Empires 4. We've been seeing a lot of activity in this series recently, and the newest one is on its way. Basically, we saw Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition, and now we are seeing the fourth in this video game series that's been going since 1997. Now, we do not know exactly when it's hitting, but we do know that, like the other games in the series, it's a historical real-time strategy game among the best ones out there, and it will be coming sometime this year. At number 3 is Elden Ring, which is still a maybe. We don't know for certain this is coming this year. It could come next year, but I want to be optimistic because, frankly, I always love a Dark Souls style game. And this is one coming from not only From Software, but also the mind of George R.R. Martin, who's a fantastic fantasy writer. And seeing the convergence of these two things, in my opinion, is probably going to be a big event. Now, we don't know a whole lot more than that. You can expect that it's going to play like Dark Souls. It's going to be pretty, and it's probably going to be insane because George R.R. Martin is an insane writer. That's hitting on everything, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Really, really rooting for this year. At number 2 is Darkest Dungeon 2, Red Hook Studios' follow-up to the original. Basically, you set a group of heroes out to dungeon crawl and deal with the stress levels of each hero. This was a really well-received game, which looks to improve on the core combat system and transition from 2D to 3D graphics. We don't have a date yet, but it is coming this year according to the developers and publishers. I mean, come on, Darkest Dungeon is a great game. The sequel's, of course, going to be awesome. At number 1 is Valheim, this insane, huge, early access title that has come in and just taken the Steam charts by storm. This is one from back in February. It is a stylized, Viking-oriented survival game, and probably one of the bigger highlights is actually the combat, but all of the resource farming, crafting, and all of that, it's also stuff that's done probably better than a lot of other titles because it doesn't overwhelm you while at the same time giving you some depth. Now again, this is a game that went from nothing to massive, but I think there's more to it than just being a flash in the pan because it's early access, it's developing, and even at this early stage is really, really fun and addicting. Like I said, Valheim is out in early access now. It's $20 and it is worth every cent now. Can't wait to see the final product. Couple of bonus games for you. First is Baldurs Gate 3, which is in early access. You can check that out now. It's, of course, the latest. It incorporates a lot of the newer ideas from Larian Studios, who, by the way, created the Divinity Original Sin games, and also Monster Hunter Rise, which, just gotta mention, this is a huge reach. I totally understand that. But, hey, it's enough to mention, at least in a bonus. I want to play Monster Hunter Rise. That's all I'm saying here. What do you think, though? Leave us a comment. Let us know. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications. And as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.